Hello and welcome to the He Doesn't Want It podcast, sponsored by Learners Ross Driving School and Drumbo Park Racecourse. Today I am gladly joined by TJ Young. TJ, we've now coming up to a year without football. Have you missed it?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think everyone's missing it, but it's great to hear some positive news in the horizon. Maybe that football will be returning at some stage. Obviously, to hear the intermediate or the Irish Championship and the Irish Cup is all going ahead. So hopefully that bodes well for everyone else to follow suit down the line for the new season.
Yeah, we've obviously had the senior leagues, but we're hoping we get some sort of intermediate football coming in, so then it'll start filtering down, and then you have the junior game, and then you have the kids game as well. I think we've all really just can't wait to get it back.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of talk, positive and negative, about whether football should be back and whether that there. I've got my own opinions of whether it should be back or not. I mean, no one likes football more than me, but I'm very much of let's make sure everybody stays safe first before we get back to actually playing. The thoughts of actually, obviously the warmer weather is coming around now, but the thoughts of football ever going back there in the last few months, or when there was no changing rooms and all, was just not going to be up my street. So it wasn't so.
It was kind of one of those things. Everyone had different opinions on it. Like, some people were happy enough, and some people. So the best thing was probably just to stop it. Well, we're in lockdowns anyway. We didn't have choice most of the time. But it seems to be now. At least now we can look forward to August. If that's going to be the start of the season, then that's possible.
I just thought, there's a lot of talk around mental health, and that's what we'll probably talk about later on. But there's a lot of things about mental health and how it affects mental health. And I just felt the whole kicking the can along the road was actually affecting people's mental health worse than actually not playing football. See this start-stop, or whether it's going to start or not starting, that was the bit was affecting most people's mental health. And I think, since they said it's not happening, I think it just eased the whole stress of whether it's starting, whether it's not, and trying to motivate people to do things and things like that there. Whereas it's a clean break, everybody's now looking for the new season.
Yeah, it's true. It's actually a completely different way to look at it from what I've ever thought, but it's completely true. Like you said, you kick a can down the road and then you've no idea when you're starting, but now you can look forward to a start date, which we're hoping is guaranteed. It seems It should be guaranteed, so it should. What I want to do, mate, is I want to go back, first of all, to your playing career, and we'll talk about your days playing. Where did that start? Where did you start your youth career?
Basically, coming up through, I played for St Andrews up in Shankill. So obviously coming from Bangor and travelling to play for St Andrews through the youth, and then we'd play for a team Belfast Youth, which was formed from a cross community from the Shankill and I think it was Twinbrook. I think it was one of the things. So we played down through the youth, and then I went on to play for Ards reserves. So just I was in Ards reserves for a few years. And at the time, back in whenever I was playing, you were able to sign for 2 clubs. So right. I had played for Ards on a Friday night for the reserve team, and then I would have went and played for First Bangor on a Saturday. So that's how it all came about. Where I've ended up First Bangor being my club, so to speak. But when I was at Ards, it was in the 90s, and Ards had a good side then. You know what I mean? Very good side. It went from the Premier Division of the Irish League and things like that, and the top players. And and it was very hard. I was playing reserve team football, got Player of the Year for the reserves a couple of times, but trying to force my way into the first team at Ards was very, very hard with the actual players they had.
Yeah. So, and it's St Andrews as well. You said St Andrews are obviously you travelled up to play for St Andrews, but they were a massive club, which a lot of guys I've had on before have played for St Andrews, and you see some of the names that played for St Andrews throughout the years and went across the water. It was a breeding ground. Like you had to travel up to play for him, but I'm sure you had some say even playing there as well with St Andrews.
Yeah, it was just obviously when you're playing in schools cups and things like that there, obviously playing against Belfast teams, and then to be approached to go and play for St Andrews. So I didn't even none of my parents didn't even drive or nothing so I was always relying on I had to get 3 buses. Like I used to get a bus from where I lived in the Newton Ards, up to Oxford Street bus station, and then get picked up, and then taken on, and you had to be there for 9:30. So what I mean, you can imagine me trying to be there for that time. But that was just what, and you talk about health and safety and things like that earlier. I mean, that was me traveling on my own.
I know.
Going to play youth team football 9:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning and getting 3 buses to get there. So now that you're not even allowed to travel alone, and it's all everything's all PC and all that. So
obviously playing.
But you always had there was a fellow Victor McCracken who was up there, and he was so good to us, and he was super. But we used to play actually it was like gravel pitch. That was actually where Shankill United play. That was used to be a gravel pitch.
Hammer, yeah.
And the Hammer, and the lights were absolutely horrendous. But as you said, the number of top players that came out of playing on a scrapper pitch, went across the water. It was a testament to what they had as a club then back then.
Yeah, and then see the way you said playing on a Friday night and a Saturday. I don't know. It seems like you wouldn't get that nowadays. I don't think. Well, you can't get it anyway with the two clubs. But I don't think you would get the attitude from the players to want to do that. Whereas I'm sure when you were younger, you just wanted to play any time you could, every day of the week.
Well, that's it. You know what I mean? And saying about being sore, like you're trying to ask somebody you're playing a Saturday now, and they're saying they're sore on Tuesday, they can't even train. And you know what I mean? Whereas I was playing Friday night, Friday night match, and then going Saturday afternoon, not even it was just that's the thing you do. You know what I mean? That was just what we're done. Two games, and away you go. And it sort of changed when shortly after that. It must have been in the early 2000s. It must have changed it. They weren't allowed to 2 clubs, but it certainly helped you, because obviously when you to have that, you know what I mean, it allowed me to then explore the amateur league, then to go and play in the amateur league rather than you know what I mean, just falling out of love with the Ards.
And then did you just stay with First Bangor then at that point, just continue on with First Bangor?
So when I was playing for Ards, I was plagued with injuries. I always got injuries, and so one of my strengths was always my pace, and I was fast, but kept getting hamstrings, flipping ankles, dodgy ankles. So I was always getting injured, and that was always my problem. And then so when I actually played a season for Killyman Rangers, actually in the Mid-Ulster League.
Yeah.
Because I was working for a guy, Mark, who was my boss at the time, and he asked me would I go up and help him up at Killyman, which is Cookstown. So I used to travel up from Bangor to Cookstown on to play a match on a Saturday for them. And then I went to East Belfast. So that's who I played for. And I would say East Belfast was probably when I was playing competitively, week in, week out, was probably the strongest team that I've played in, was playing for East. When I was playing for East, we finished second twice when I was there. That was whenever Kelly Lay won the league 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
And we finished second the 2 years that I was there. And the team that we had for the East was superb. But again, we're back around to this signing for 2 clubs. Like Kelly Lay used to have 2 teams. They used to play, and that's how they won all the cups. They won the Intermediate Cup, they won the Intermediate Cup, the Clarence Cup, the league, all in one season. I think it was the Stephen Sons as well.
Yeah. And
you played them on a Saturday, it'd be one team, and then say Dundela wasn't playing one week, all Dundela's team players were all signed for Kelly Lay, so they were all playing against you. So it's just, which made a mockery of the whole thing, and that's why you'll not get that dominance. Yeah, I don't think you'll get that dominance now since that their rule has changed.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that D Hearn's Kelly Lay team obviously is almost like a spoke the other day, but with true, it's a generational team. They had so much success in the amateur league. You sort of, like you said, to replicate that is going to be hard to do. Crum and Star are actually trying to do that at the moment, and Newington had a good period of success as well. But it goes to show then how strong, like you said, they must have been if your East Belfast side was such a good side, and they pipped you as the post 2 years in a row.
Yeah, well, I played up front with at that time the strikers we had at East were top players like Butter Dare, What Adair was probably, in my eyes, one of the best strikers in the Amateur League for years. And he was asked to go to Glentoran a few times, never went. But I also played with Michael Halliday. Michael Halliday was in that team as well. And that's whenever Michael Halliday actually decided he would go. Bud and him were both asked to go at the same time. And Michael made the decision to go. And obviously, Michael Halliday's made himself a Glentoran hero for the last 15 years, whatever it was, that he's still playing for Bangor. You know, so, but what a player. Even then, he used to play in behind us as a, used to ghost into the box, and you see him even playing for Glentoran. He does it, but he used to do for East Belfast, just coming in late headers, all that there. He was amazing, like, even then.
Yeah. He was. When you left East Belfast, what was your next move then, or what made you leave East Belfast at that point?
Well, I was always mid-20s. I was only mid-20s at this stage, and then first Bangor were at me again, come back. So I went back to first Bangor again. So, and I gave it another stint. And again, injuries just plagued me. And it just got to the stage where I decided that enough was enough. And that's when I decided then I would do coaching. Yeah. So I took up the coaching. I used to coach whenever Paul Muscally was manager of first Bangor. I was the coach for the team at that time. And that's basically where my love for actually coaching and managing actually started, because I actually started managing young. So I did it at 29 or something like that. So, but that was all circumstantial, all because of injuries, basically. That's how I ended up doing it.
Was it hard to hang the boots up, or they just can't? You knew in yourself, obviously, your body couldn't really do it. Was it hard? Because I would get people on who've had a good career playing, and then they found it really difficult to transfer from playing to coaching because they miss playing so much. Or did you find that you enjoyed coaching that much? It was easy enough just to go, I'm done.
Yeah, especially as being young and going into coaching. Coaching was very back when I started coaching was very new to teams. Like, not everybody wanted to do the coaching badges then. It was just like everybody just done old school training. That's the way it was. And then that's whenever coaching really started to take off. It was called the UEFA B license or something. It was called. It wasn't even. Yeah. It's not even. It was all different grades then. But
there was a couple of ones before the B, wasn't there? There was no C or anything, because I remember I done my coaching badges years ago, and I think I was only 17 when I done mine, and it was like grassroots, mini soccer leader, and
but it was even before then. So it was. I got my coaching badges, and then when you get them, and it was just when I was at first Bangor. Then obviously things didn't work out with the manager at the time, and they were in the Premiership at the time. First Bangor in the Premier League at that stage, and so when I was there, the manager left, I think around January or something. But for me, they were already relegated. Mathematically not, but the team needed a real full new restructure, things like that there. So the manager left, and they asked me to carry on the mantle till the end of the season. So I did that, and to be honest, I thought at that stage I was going to be offered the actual first team job for first Bangor at that stage, and let's say it didn't happen. Much to my disgust, it didn't happen. But so I left. So I left, but the club was in 1A, so that's where I ended up getting my first manager's job, and that's where I ended up going to Bryansburn.
Right.
So basically was approached as soon as they'd heard that I had sort of left. They approached and offered me the chance to take Bryansburn. Now again, I was very young, and let's say it was quite successful.
What division were Bryansburn in at that stage?
So Bryansburn were in 1B. Now there was no 1C then.
Yeah.
So basically they were the bottom of intermediate football, and I took them over, and we were promoted. But then we finished respectively third or fourth or something in the first year. But second year we got them promoted, and for Bryansburn, and then we ended up getting promoted that year, and I'm sure a lot of people from Dundonald will remember that year, because it was nip and tuck right to the end, and Dundonald actually got promoted. So much to my disgust as well. And a few I still get stick from Tommy Matthews and the boys, but there was a lot of stuff running around with that there. But we got promoted with Dundonald that time, but we got the fifth round of the Irish Cup. Right. Now, back in them days, for a team in 1B to get the fifth round of the Irish Cup was very, very, rare. Yeah. And there's us thinking we got the fifth round of the Irish Cup and waiting for the draw to come out for the fifth round. And who did we get? Nortel. So it's like, for God's sake, we just worked their socks off to get to the fifth round of the Irish Cup, and we end up flipping
on a big gun, and you get
and
league team.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing thing, that we got so far and then we didn't actually get lucky with an Irish League club or whatever.
Yeah. At that point, then you were at Bryansburn, you got them promoted. How many years then were you in 1A with Bryansburn, or how did you go in 1A?
So we were there. I was at Bryansburn 3 seasons. So 4th, and then got them up, and then we stayed there. And then it was actually the next year I actually left. So when I got the 5th round of the Irish Cup, I would say that's it was a highlight of Bryansburn getting the 5th round, but the downfall was we were beating penalties by Nortel, and Nortel went on to play Korean. So that was a bit of a damn squid. But the next season, I just felt when I went back to Bryansburn, there was too much. I just didn't feel that the club were willing to push on and be more professional. Let's put it that way. I felt that when I got them promoted, things like that, that I wanted the club to move forward and be more professional, and not every club can do it. You know what I mean? This is the thing. You need finances, you need this and that there. And there was just wee things. And if you don't have the finances, to make your whole facilities, your whole setup more professional, you know what I mean? And I just felt that I had got them promoted and left them in a good position, that the time was right to move on. And that's what I've done. I just didn't feel as if I was going to benefit by staying on any longer. So I left, and I think it was around October, November, I left. So so then that there sort of led me on to the next management job as well.
When you left Bryansburn, where were you positioned in the league at that point? And
left them in 4th, so they were 4th in at that position.
Strong.
Still a strong position, yeah. They were in a strong position, and to find that they actually got relegated that season, disappointed me, and they should never been relegated. But again, it comes down to, when a manager leaves, sometimes the players don't always, stick around either, which made it difficult for the new manager coming in. So, which, sometimes not always the new manager's fault, but it's very hard. So.
Where did that bring you in? Did you left Bryansburn when they were 4th? So did you finish the season without a job, or did you go straight into another job in?
I was out of football from about October, November or something like that there, and around January, Abbey Villa job came up. So I was asked I applied for the Abbey Villa job. So I applied for the Abbey Villa job. Now, back in whenever I left, or before I went to Bryansburn, I'd actually applied for the Abbey Villa job, and at that stage, and I wasn't successful. So I decided I would go for it again for a second time, and I got the job in January. So to say what I was able to do with the team that found themselves with 1 point, they'd only 1 point in January. Right. Sitting bottom of the league and basically destined to be relegated. I just feel what the team achieved that season was probably the biggest success I ever had as a manager, and you know what I mean. And by keeping them up, we kept them up that season, and that was, right. And anybody who's involved with Abbey Villa and things like that. I know Abbey Villa have won Porter Cups and got promotions in the Premier League and things like that there, but I just felt the whole buzz around the whole situation of staying in that league was so important for the club as it is now. So I just thought, and the players, I mean, the players that were, it was just some of the results we got that season. It was just, it was hard to imagine how we got some of the results and who the teams would beat whenever we were sitting bottom and you end up staying up. So
because it's one of them ones where obviously you get enjoyment when things are going well and you're getting good victories. But I think one thing we always enjoy in football is when you're really backs are against the wall and you're not expected to get anything, and you get 11 players, 14 players on a pitch, and they just proper working their socks off for the team, and you get those results. Sometimes those type of results are what really gets you going as a coach or a manager. So they are.
Well, that's the same. When I went in, now the previous manager was Mark and Graham, and they done fantastic. Honestly, the job they had done in Abbey Villa, they'll be down as big heroes for Abbey Villa. Obviously, they won the Border Cup and got promoted from into the Premier. But whenever I went in, it needed, again, I don't know what happened beforehand, but there was a lot of players that left, whatever, and things got there. So when I went in, I had to, sign loads and loads of new players. So it took a while for them all to gel and things got there. So, but there's the players that I signed even then are still at the club. And that's, I mean, that's what they're good for. Abbey Villa are a good, strong club, like.
Yeah. At Abbey Villa, then you kept them up that year. What was the aspirations then for the next season? Or
well, Abbey Villa. The thing was about Abbey Villa. When we did stay up, the 2 games before the end of the season, Larne Tech, we had to get a draw at least at our ground against Larne Tech, and we beat them 1-0. And Larne Tech had a good side then, and we beat them 1-0, and that was us. We stayed up, and within the next season, you thought, let's see how we go, and we did. We kept finishing 4th. This is the problem. This is why I felt when I was at Abbey Villa that I tried give it everything to try and get them promoted. We kept finishing 3rd and 4th. Now, when I look back at the teams that were in 1A, that came through 1A whenever I was there at Abbey Villa, every team is now strong teams in the Premier. We're talking about the Drummond S's. Drummond S went through the league and then actually won the Premier. You had Crumlin Star, Immaculata, Downpatrick, Crumlin United, and all these teams. And it frustrated the life out of me that we just kept getting so close. And then these new teams, it was just every time there's a new team coming through, and they just had that extra wee bit that got them promoted each season. And it frustrated me. And I went to them and I said, I just feel that I can't get this team promoted. And it comes down to like a community-based club. And see, whenever I was at Abbey Villa, there was no youth structure. There was a youth, but it wasn't old enough, and there was no structure at the club to try and say, well, can I get, is it going to be there, and where there's longevity. And I put pressure on myself. Now, Abbey Villa didn't put pressure on me to get promoted. I just always put pressure on myself that I wanted to get them promoted so much that I felt that I was letting myself down and letting the team down. And I decided, I said to them at the end of the season, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, because basically I just felt that I wasn't able to do it. And but in saying that, there now, a few years on, Abbey Villa are now, I would say, strong favourites. One of the strong favourites to go promotion next year.
Yeah.
Them and Rosario and Dramara, I would say. Whereas whenever we were going into it, there was always somebody else. Immaculata is going to go up, or Common Star is going to go up. We were always setting a fiddle, you know what I mean? And we had to always play above our station to try and do it.
Yeah.
But I just feel this is now, Abbey Villa's now got the time. I feel that they have the team, and they now have they've got a youth, they've got everything now ready to go for the Premier League. Yeah. And that's what I didn't have. I just didn't feel that we had that in us go up at that stage. And it's all about timing. Sometimes you just get a timing where teams in the league aren't as strong in that season, you get up, or you have a wonder season and you go up. It's things they got there. So it's all about timing.
There's two things there. So like you said, it's all about timing. It can be like you spoke about a strong youth setup, and having that youth setup is close enough in age to the senior setup, because then you've got a freshness coming in every year. You could be getting, even if it's 2 players coming in strengthening your first team from new setup, it could be 5 or 6 coming in strengthening your squad. It keeps the experienced players on their toes, and it keeps that motivation going, because you're getting new guys in coming and they're pushing the guys who've been there already. And the other thing is that there, like you said, if you do get promoted, you have to have that setup where you're not going to get promoted and a couple of bad results, and before you know it, you're fighting relegation, you're straight back down again. You want to have that sustainability. You want to have that structure in place within any club where you can get up in the Premier Division and become one of the regular teams in it and stay there over a long period.
Yeah, and that's the first seasons, easy. It's hard when you get there, but it is the second season syndrome, as Sheffield United found whenever they got up. You know what I mean, from the Premier, it's teams find you out and things like that there. So, what as a club, Abbey Villa's a very, very top club, and they have the facilities and everything else to be a Premier League club. But it comes down to this community-based clubs, and it's see trying to get players to go that extra 6-10 miles down to Malile. That's honestly, I used to speak to people in Dundonald and Belfast, and I go, listen, we're down Abbey Villa, down Malile. Go, where's Malile? Is that where people go for their holidays? You know what I mean? And they didn't even
get somebody who has a caravan down there and you're flying.
Some here, well, I'll tell you, that's where the 2 best players. Actually, one of the 2 best players came from that caravan site. But that was the situation. People didn't even know where Malile was, and then trying to get players to pass by First Bangor, get past Ards Rangers, get them to pass other clubs to go that extra 6-10 mile down to Malile. And people just thought that wasn't for them, and that's the thing. But now, because it's community, they've got a support, or the players and the youth. That's hopefully that's going to help them, for sustainability.
Yeah. After you left Abbey Villa, then where did you find yourself then?
So when I left Abbey Villa, I had no intentions of going back into football. I had, you know what I mean. I did. So I was back up again. I have a caravan in Donegal, so I was in Donegal, and I got a phone call from First Bangor to say that their manager had resigned. And this was about a week or 10 days before the season started, or something, 2 weeks before the season started. So I spoke to them, and I said, I'll come down and speak to them and see what the situation is, and I'll go back and so went down to training. I agreed to take the job, and I went down to training, and there was 4 people standing, and I went, "You're having a laugh here," you know what I mean? He says, "Yeah, the whole team's away," and I says, "So this is like 2 weeks before the season started." So back, I see someone has put on the Facebook, asked me for my black book, but I had to get the black book out again and check to see what numbers and pull in favours and get all the friends that helped me at other clubs and things, and and we made a few signings, and from that there we made about 6, 7, 8 signings in about 2 weeks, and it was just like a snowball effect. And so who was the first game of the season? It came out, the fixtures come out. The first game of the season was against Abbey Villa. There's me. You're having a laugh. And that was down in Malile.
I'm not Kirkwood must have had something to do with it in the league meeting, did he?
Well, so I went down there, and what a game. Like, we were 2-1 down with not long to go, and we scored 2 in the last 10 minutes or something. Scored in the 92nd minute or something to win it, 3-2.
Yeah.
So obviously, all this thing, you're not meant to celebrate and all this here, but it's very hard to, about emotions. And, somebody, you shouldn't have celebrated as well you did, but, when you win 3-2 from 90
last minute, it doesn't matter who you're playing.
Yeah, and that's it. So that actually, so we went on, we went on from there, and basically, we done first season. We done absolutely brilliant. Like obviously, got promoted again, and got promoted from 1A, and then got the Clarence Cup final.
Yeah.
So for the first season, considering with 4 players, 2 weeks before the season started, and we went on to do what we've done. So
yeah,
I think we've done all right.
I think you said about having that 4 players to start a season. Obviously, that's not ideal for any manager, and a lot of people would just go, "No, don't fancy this challenge." But when you get one, you said you got 7 or 8 players in the first 2 weeks. Sometimes the hardest thing is if any player, football's a small world. If any player hears the situation about the fact that 4 or 5 players are training, and you phone them and say, "Look, I want you to come down," and then they're saying, "No, I don't fancy it. I heard you're struggling. You don't have any players." But once you get those first couple of bodies in the door, and then the caliber of player, it starts to attract more, doesn't it? You start to get more coming then, and then you get that result the first game of the season, and people are going, "Over here, first Bangor aren't actually a bad side. They've turned it around there."
Without, I see, it's about selling yourself. You know what I mean? It's not about what the club is, and people say, "Oh, first Bangor this and previousness here." It's about selling yourself and just saying, "Listen, I'm not asking you the same for the club, I'm asking the same for me." You know what I mean? And come and play for me, and let me show you what the club can be, and improve the club, and show what it's all about. Players sometimes are fickle. You know what I mean? As soon as I leave, they go, and so then you have to sort of say, "Right, well, come and play for me," and then hopefully that comes. Then they'll love the club after that, and that's basically how it's been. It's players will want to play for you, and that's what I've had. Is players who and everybody keeps going, "Well, as soon as TJ gets that job, X, Y, and Z is going to flip sign for him." That's just the way it happens. But that's respect. That's respect both ways. You know what I mean? That you will go and rely on people to sign for you, and rely on boys who will be those players that will do the business for you. And that I just felt when I took them over, that I could get those players to perform. But there's one player that when I was the first Bangor, I didn't really know. I didn't really know him. I'd seen him play. Absolute nightmare. And what a player to manage. But from the good and bad, Ryan Harvey. And I signed Ryan Harvey for first Bangor. And if there's one man who can win a football match, doesn't matter if it's an 88th minute. There's somebody you can rely on. Like he's lying there, like no leg on him, but he'll knock him off that pitch, and then he'll pop up a winner. And how often he done it, for first Bangor, and I would say he was a big influence on the success we had, at first Bangor. That's how influential he was. Now there was a lot of top players. Yes, there was loads of them, but I just felt he was the match winner most weeks.
Yeah, that year obviously promotion was the main aim. Once you started to get a run together, I'm sure. But then the Clarence Cup final would have been a bonus. But was that the year you played Macalata in the Cup final? Was it? It was a strong Macalata side, wasn't it?
Very strong, yeah. Well, we'll talk about the league. Flipping lost the league in goal difference, which against East Belfast, we needed to go down to beat them. They came to us in the last game of the season, and we had to beat them by 4-0, and we beat them 2-1. So we did, and obviously beating goal difference.
Yeah.
So that in itself is more heartbreak. But so I went to Clarence Cup, and very, very confident about doing well. I just felt we never turned up, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you probably still see it in Sky Sports. The goal they scored was an absolute wonder goal. McGovern scored absolute flipping worldly. He caught it in the sweet as a nut, and that's where they win any flipping match. You know what I mean? So I just thought, this isn't going to be our night. As soon as that went in, you just went, this isn't happening.
Yeah, because you're coming up against a Premier Division team, and I'm sure the plan was try and keep it tight as long as you can, and then that he comes up and scores a goal like that, you can't do anything about it, and they gain confidence from it.
Because if you look back at it, the way you analyse, because it's always been on, I think your man Phillips puts it up quite often, but when it gets headed away, and you think there's only one place he could put that, and he flipping absolutely hard it right into. And that was and that sort of gives any team. But they also had what do you call him? Most of us that night, the right back.
James Hawkeye.
James Hawkeye. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, he gave us nightmares. So he did, and I would say, of anybody, he was the boy who, him and Kieran with their pace. And we just couldn't cope, with the pace of it. But listen, it was just an icing on the cake if we had got that there. But it was, I mean, good for the club because the club hadn't been at a final for a long time. So it sort of set us up.
Going into the Premier Division, then I'm sure your players then were fully aware of the task at the level they were coming up from 1A and the Premier Division. How did you fare the first season in the Premier?
I've done actually well. We competed, done very well, got a lot of good results. I think we finished in the top half, and we were, no team, over us. We think we gave everybody games. I think we beat Star once. I think we beat Star in one of the games down at the Cliff, I think, as well. So, but overall, the standard from 1A to the Premier is night and day, and people don't think. People think the amateur league is it's all the same, and I've had debates with other managers about standards of this league against league. Once you go to the Premier League, it's a different animal. I just think the standard of player in the amateur league of the Premier League, the majority, 70-80% of them are top players, like, and it takes a different type of player to actually be able to play on it.
Yeah, you can see as well how hard it can be for teams coming up from 1A to steady themselves and then keep it there over a prolonged period and then challenge. There's very few teams have been able to do over the last couple of years. Obviously, East Belfast come up yourselves now. They're challenging. Ballynahinch Olympic come up not that long ago, and then they're now competitive. Crumlin United went up through 1A when you were with Abbey Villa. So it is hard to do, and there's not many teams can do it. And then you see some teams drop out of 1A or Premier, and then 1A is such a hard league to get out of. It's hard to get back in again as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you look at our Rangers went out, and then they went up again, and then Abbey Villa only went up for 1 or 2 seasons, and then first Bangor went up as well, 1-2 seasons back down again. Again, you need sustainability. You need the whole club pushing. The whole club needs to be a Premier League club. It's not just about one season, and this is what we've been working in the background with First Bangor is to try and make it more structurally right to actually be able to sustain a challenge. You know what I mean? And to be at the higher reaches of the Premier League before we can actually try and achieve the actual, to try and win it.
Yeah, the first Bangor then after you got promoted in your first season in the Premier Division, was that when you left First Bangor then?
So it's the following season. So I was our 2 seasons, and then I decided to step aside. So as part of First Bangor, I set up a mental health group called Sports, which stands for Suicide Prevention, Offer and Recovery Through Sport. I'll explain how that came about through the club, but that's why I left First Bangor at the end of the season, because I just felt that I wanted to really focus on promoting the mental health group that I had started, and I thought this was a good time to actually go out and try and do it and promote it around the area, around all clubs, and that's basically where I am at the moment.
Yeah, the charity itself, how did it come about? Or was there a reason behind starting it, or was there a few involved? Or
basically, when I was at First Bangor, one of the young lads at the club experienced a few issues, and we had identified, one of the coaches and myself had identified this. There's something not right here. There's the young lad was getting very emotional and things like that. It just wasn't his usual self, and it wasn't until we went and spoke to him and asked him, "Are you okay?" He opened up and basically told us he wasn't, and obviously for confidentiality, he basically told us he had a problem, and I was going, "Flip, what do I do here? I don't even know what to do." So I rang around and spoke to a few people, and I spoke to Joe from Tammy, and I spoke to him about how I can help him, and Joe, in fairness, gave me some tips on how to help the young lad, and the young lads, happy days, he's out the other end of it. And so we felt as a club that I did as a coach and a manager, that I didn't know that we should be educated and knowing how to deal with a situation like that there. And I said to myself that I would hate that to happen to another coach or manager. So that's how it all came about, that I said that we need to put a policy in place, a mental health policy within the club, to basically safeguard coaches and managers and safeguard players, that they know that there's somebody there to help them. And that's so we've implemented that into the club. So then I decided to roll this out to all the clubs in our area, in North Down and Ards, to all sports clubs. And that's basically what I do. I go around sports clubs, encouraging them to do things as regards mental health, and that's basically how it's basically snowballed. It's just got and it was got too busy that I've taken a lot of people. I think we've got 12 people in our committee now to try and to take it to the next level.
Yeah, obviously you say I just spoke to Joe and Tommy there, and I know Joe well, but he obviously covers a lot of clubs, any club that wants to help. But of course, Tommy as a mental health charity is mainly Belfast based, so. Well, that was you're probably looking at the fact that there was nothing in your area really for.
And that's true. There's not even a crisis response team or crisis intervention in North Down Ards, and whereas everybody relates mental health to North Belfast, to Derry and things like that there, and that's what they look at and say, oh, mental health's everywhere, and it's affecting all communities of all sides. And the problem was, when you go looking for that help, there is help there, but nobody knows about it. And this is about educating people that where everybody can be signposted to, and that's what it was. But when you go to Joe, like Joe is honestly, if Joe had 100 bodies to go about and do everything, he would do it, but he can't do it on his own. And this is the thing. And Stephen Paul, he obviously done it in the Shankill area as well. And they're obviously working with all the clubs out there, and I just felt that it was needed down in this area, and that's basically. And I said I would try and promote it down this area.
Yeah, my own connection with Joe started when I realised that as a coach, you kind of get caught up in the whole football side of things, and you forget that a lot of players can depend on you for more than that. And sometimes it's a brother figure, a father figure, or just even the fact that they feel close enough to you, they can speak to you. And I thought that I was looking around and seeing clubs where there was tragedies happening. Young people were losing their lives, and I didn't want my own club to be the next tragedy to come out of. And that's when I then made the connection with Joe, and we've tried to then do our best as a club to try and improve that. And I'm sure you're obviously thinking the same when you avert a tragedy with your own player, but you're thinking we need to try and help as many as we can here.
There's nothing worse than, it's obviously a plug here as well, but there's nothing worse than I've been out and I spoke to clubs from all, not just football clubs. I've been at, GAA, all different types of things, and you go and speak to them, and they go, yeah, no worries, I'll do that, dead on, and then they don't do it, and then all of a sudden, like a month later, they're on the phone to you. Here we have Johnny here. He's not. I says, this is what it is. It's not about, you need to be proactive rather than reactive, and that's what we want clubs to be, is to be proactive and doing things for the club and safeguarding our players now, rather than thinking whenever it happens and saying, "Flip, we should have done this."
Yeah. Through the charity, then it's obviously given you time out of the game, but you're now back with First Bangor. You're back involved. Is that right?
So basically, during lockdown, there, First Bangor had obviously had their struggles of trying to basically, when they were going through a couple of managers and things weren't working out as they planned, under difficult circumstances for those managers, I have no doubt about it. But they came to me and asked me would I go back, and I basically said, not really, no, I can't go back, because I really want to focus on the Rosebowl representative team. I feel whenever I want to talk about the Rosebowl, I feel that when I was out, week in, week out, looking at different leagues. And the team that I had selected for the squad, it showed in it that I had players coming from junior football as well, even in the squad. Maybe they mightn't have made the cut, but who's to say they might have? But nobody knows because of COVID. But I was able to get out and look around at clubs in 2C, players from Top Mona, Belfast Celtic, and things like that there, who probably in the past have never had a chance of being in that representative team because the manager hasn't been able to go out. So, but back to the fact that First Bangor is my club, and I always want the best for it. So I said to them that, I would do anything that I could do for them. So my brother is now the manager. My brother was manager of Top Mona. Right. So Mark, he's the manager, and basically I'm helping him. So it means then I can be there during the week, or I can go and do my mental health stuff during the week. I can still be there during the week and be there that week-to-week stuff. And see, to be honest, when I was out that year, I really, really missed it. Like, see the banter around the changing room, the whole connection. When you're the Rosebowl manager and you've been so involved in football for so many years, with the club, and your phone's not ringing with all the problems and everything, it's like a real culture shock. It's like you feel like isolated. Was that even happen? You know what I mean? And I mean, it's you're not on the pulse, and the missus is going, "You are right there. You're so calm and things like that." It's just, but I like that. I like the whole 100-mile-an-hour stuff, and that's basically what I wanted back in my life again with back at the football club. So, as I say, my brother's managing, and then I'm in there helping him. So I'm his assistant. So it means whenever come Saturdays, the Rosebowl team will involve me watching Premier League teams anyway. So because First Bangor will be playing against them, so that's one thing. But then whenever I want to go and look at other leagues, I can then go and watch them, and that gives me that there option. You know what I mean? So now I have the day-to-day running of football with the First Bangor, but also have the mental health thing, and it doesn't affect that, plus the Rosebowl. So basically, what we've also, First Bangor have also brought in a whole new structure, management team. They've brought in another new manager as well to come in. So that means then it's less likely that I'll have as much say, or not much say, not as time consuming for me at First Bangor. So that's basically it. So the club's in a good, strong position going into the new season.
Yeah, we spoke a wee bit about the structure of a club and how important it is, and it seems to be that's something you've learned throughout your career, your manager career as well, that the structure of a club outside of the 14 you pick on a Saturday is so important for sustainability and longevity.
Well, as I said, back to Abbey Villa, which at that time, and the timing wasn't right, where the youth hadn't progressed age-wise to actually benefit me as a manager for the first or seconds or thirds at that time. But now at First Bangor have now, they've just announced that they have now taken on East Coast Strikers. Now, East Coast Strikers are a full, already formed youth structure. Now, they've changed their name to now be First Bangor Juniors. So all of a sudden, First Bangor have 160 kids involved at their club that they never had before. So they also have two senior teams around. I think it's under 16s and under 17s. So all of a sudden, in 2 years' time, you're going to have two youth teams underneath first and seconds. So already you've got safety in numbers that, when a manager leaves, that there's still players to play, even in the team, even if it's maybe not the standard, but they're not going to fold as such. And that's what it's all about. But we've brought in a guy, Stevie Kernduff. Now, Stevie Kernduff was manager of Ards under 20s. Right. Now, he's been at Ards for the last 8 years, and he just felt that he wanted an opportunity to manage a senior team because he's always done youth. And so we're giving him that opportunity to come into First Bangor, and I would say he's going to be the long-term solution for First Bangor going forward. Yeah,
it's great to see as well, because obviously First Bangor is your club, the club that you've started playing with when you were younger, and you've came back and helped the club now on 2-3 separate occasions as a coach, and then you're leaving it in good hands as best you can, as well as working with your charity, and then also the Rose Bowl team as well. The Rose Bowl team itself is, I'm sure that's a massive honour, and then the other thing is as well, are you the first manager that we've had who isn't actually managing directly a team?
Yeah, well, that was the thing, and people will, they'll pull out all the posts that I probably had on the NI football forum back in the day, whenever I was very vocal of basically saying that the best for the amateur league is to have a manager who is able to go around clubs and pick a team from that, rather than just picking from what to see. And so I think I'm right in saying that I am the first manager that's not been involved with a club. So it was a great honour to be asked. You know what I mean? Obviously, they approached me, and it didn't take much persuasion to accept the job. Now, unfortunately, this is the third. Well, I suppose I'll be unbeaten for 3 years, but because of COVID, there hasn't been any matches, so it's been a bit of a nightmare. But the first season, obviously, I wasn't involved with the club, and I was around different leagues, different teams that probably wouldn't have that time to go and see clubs. As I said to you, I had players in the squad from Tuckmorna, Belfast Celtic, and teams like that there would never have been. Well, they were really new in the league anyway, but teams in 2C would never have had a player probably selected even to come for the trials and things like that there at that stage.
Yeah.
So I thought that was what was going to be right for the league, to have a look at others and give people that chance.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of good players. See, once I got out and around some of those clubs, some of the standard players, like most clubs in those 2A around 2B have one or two players that could easily step up to the big levels and in the amateur league. But obviously, for whatever reason, they choose to stay with their mates or whatever the reasons are that they want to stay at that level. But there's 2 or 3 top players, not junior football.
Yeah, even like my club's been in 2A for a long time, so we've seen a lot of good sides come up through 2A. Like we competed years ago against Crum and Star, and at that point then you would have had the likes of Rathfarn, Shankill United when they were the Welders, and you had a really strong division. But then there was players then who could have been playing Premier Division football, and they might not have got the opportunity. Some of them did. But then over the last couple of years, even you have Macalata coming up through, and you can see the success they have. And then most recently, there's still strong sides at Willowbank, for example, that the success they've had by winning the Junior Cup last year just goes to show the strength of the second divisions. But also players in 1C, 1B, 1A, and it can be loyalty to a club, or it can be thinking that I can stay with this club, I can see success, and they probably could. They could be raising through the league. So for you to be able to go around and see these clubs and see these players, it means then the old, there used to be always arguments about, well, this player wasn't picked because he doesn't play in the Premier Division, or this player wasn't picked because he picked his mates.
But what I would say,
that could die.
But what I would say, I'm a big believer that somebody should be ambitious to try and try and play there. I'm not a big thing that ones who just are playing lower level and don't want to go there. They don't aspire to be there. So why should I give them a chance to play in the prestigious Rose Bowl if they don't, and take that chance of someone who's basically busting their gut to try and be in that team? You know what I mean? So where someone's just has no, I'll just take it or leave it. There's players like that, and you could probably pick a few of them yourselves when you see them in 2A. There's a few boys you go, what's he doing here? And it's just no interest. He's no interest. So if he's no interest, makes you think, does he deserve a chance in the higher levels? In the Rose Bowl. But as I say, what did get me was the politics of the Rose Bowl thing of players will say they'll play, not play. I couldn't fathom. There were some players just didn't even want to play in it, and some people would feel it's the best thing ever. Others just take it or leave it. And some of the excuses they give me, it was, let me, And and so even to be playing in a tournament like that or a match like that, they didn't even want to be involved, which was hard to believe. Like so, it was so. But
sometimes it can be as petty as a player gets overlooked once, and then all of a sudden, then they don't want it. They don't want to be called
that's
up.
it. You know what I mean? And some clubs think they weren't getting picked in this, that, there, and I've heard that as well and things. But and I'm very open to anything, and I would give, doesn't matter, everybody an opportunity. And I'd ask even managers who watch us tonight, like, if you do have a player in your club, that you feel that benefits a chance, feel free to give me a shout and say, come and watch them. Or because sometimes, I don't get around every club, but I will make a point if somebody actually says, I think you should have a look at this one, because, it's not always, playing, because I could go someday and say, watch a club and that player's not playing that day, and that'll be it, forgotten about him. And somebody will say, he didn't get picked. And he maybe wasn't there that day, I wasn't there. So I sort of need input from other managers as well. And, we'll be thankful for that if that happens, and that's what you need.
Yeah, so you'll be like Gareth Southgate sitting in the stands then, coming and
Well,
casting his eye over the players.
Well, this is it. Like, but it is a good thing to have, and we'll look forward to trying to make it as professional. And this is the thing about the amateur league. It is the end of season finale things, and we try to make it as, and we're going to make it as professional as we can. Yeah. And if you look at where the shows this year is, Crumlin United, in their pitch and their facilities is top notch. Crumlin United's gone from about, they're top club these days, and so that's where it's going to be held. But there's a lot of people talking, when you go to Scotland, they play in Little Hampden and they're playing Falkirk and things like that there. But the amateur league go the cheap way and go for amateur league clubs. So there's two ways of looking at it. You can either go, let's showcase what the amateur league have, or do you spend the money and say, let's, take them to another, like Seaview or not? Like, why would you go to Seaview and things like that there? No. But I just think Crumlin United's a great club. If it just had a stand, it wouldn't look out of place in any flipping level if it had a stand right up beside of it.
I'm almost sure we were up there in the summer. We were up for a friendly in the summer, and I'm almost sure that Kieran Caldwell, the manager, was saying to me that Derry City had played a friendly on it the week before. So it just goes to show the standard, and then that's why I've picked the Crumlin United as the host the final of my own tournament coming up. So
the pitch is prestige. I've spoken to a few boys ahead of the Rosebowl and a lot of good guys up there. But I'm sure did you see the plans they have for the new? They're obviously forward thinking and things like that there, and they've got good guys in the background. Obviously, they can pull the plug or pull the thing on getting grants or something to try and get that stuff done. But it's amazing, and that's the thing, it's, and I think it's a good one to call, you know what I mean, for them to go. So
I want to go on to a couple of questions for you. Not exactly quick fire questions, but just about players you've either played or coached against, or clubs. It can be a team or an individual. Who would be the toughest opponents you've had, either as a player or a coach?
I would say Ralph Renand as regards how they play football. I think when you look back at Paul Kirk's team and even at how they play the game right, it was on the deck and things like that there. And I just thought they'd be one of the top footballing sides. But Common Star is one of the hardest teams you'll play against. And it goes with they get the success. But you can have success during a match against Common Star, but they're never out of the game. The amount of times that you think we're actually doing well here first half, did you do it? They come up with answers to every, no matter what, they come up with big goals at right times and things like that there. And they just know they have a knack of winning games ugly or winning games well. And I just think they're probably the hardest team those came through in recent times. I just think they're the team to beat.
Yeah. and then the success they've had as well just goes to show how strong a team they have been. Sort of have.
Well, for an amateur league team to win the Intermediate Cup, okay, yes, we took one of the leagues away, but still the same. It's still, it's still hard. It's still one of the hardest cups to win is the Intermediate. A lot of clubs don't, because you have to play so many games. You have to play for them and all around the country. It's a very, very strong cup to win, or strong. Because they're all around the country and the standards are high, and for them to win that, there was, it just shows you how good they were. So, but they've got, it's experience. Joe McNeil and things like that. There, when you've got players in the amateur league who are dropping down from higher level to come down,
league.
And they can come down and they can just be a nuisance or whatever. But you get boys like Joe McNeil who's came down after playing for all the clubs he does. There's nobody more professional and more driven than Joe when you speak to him. And how fit he is. That's that. Whenever he installs that sort of mentality on a team, that's why Common Star is probably what they're like. Yeah. You look back at remember Fra Murphy and
Fra Murphy, yeah.
When top player, like I used to, how he played football, he used to drop into the wee hole and play. It was just top, and and that's what Common Star do. They bring in players like that who can help the other ones through, and that's where they're good at. And that's the teams who are able to attract players from the top level coming down. They're the ones who are successful.
Yeah. What about players your best players you have played with or coached? Who would be? Some people find it hard to name one, so feel free to name a five-a-side. Say it if you want.
Well, whenever I was at East Belfast, there was a guy, Geordie Blackstock. Geordie be a good friend of mine now, but only because I got to meet up with him a few years later. But what a player! He used to small, tubby. Would you say you'd probably say he's carrying too much weight and he had been in Stoke, so he had when he was younger. But he came back and he used to sit like a wee general, just sit like a wee Gattuso, just sit in front of midfield and play ball, and he was amazing. And to say when we played there was him, there was Michael Halliday, Butter there, and we, Johnny Jamison was doing that, and Doc, and we had a really good side. But Geordie Blackstock was, just different gravies he was.
Yeah, I spoke to, do you know Chrissy Stewart?
Yeah.
I spoke to Chrissy not that long ago before Christmas, and asked him who his toughest opponent was, and he said Geordie Blackstock. He said I looked at him and I thought, a bit tubby, I'd be all right today. And he said, give me a lesson. He says it was the toughest opponent he ever had. He said he gave me a lesson, and he said the first time I come up against him, I come off a pitch, my dad says to me, "You had a nightmare today, son." He had you in his pocket. So
I didn't know Chrissy said that, but Geordie, I didn't know Geordie would be. It's just somebody that stuck on my mind. And what happens is, Geordie's done as well in his ages, but he would come down. He lives in Nord, so he'd come down and train with our boys. And he doesn't do any of the fitness, but he comes down and he'll do a wee run himself, and then he'll come and play the wee games at the end. And everybody go, they look at him, he's still tubby, and tell you what, he can play his possession football and never gives the ball away, and everybody goes, shit, you know what I mean? And just has it all up there, so it's amazing. But in recent times, like I would say, Ryan Harvey, when I talk about player who single-handedly can win matches, I would say him. Yeah.
I'm going to go on to the Twitter and Facebook questions here, just a few for you. Conor McGowan asked about your black book. He wanted to know if you could tell us how many names are in your black book.
There's quite a lot, and that's why Conor keeps ringing me and asking me.
He's looking at it, is he?
Well, funny enough, I had somebody contacted me last night and goes, "Do you know such a person?" And this was a manager, and I goes, "Yeah." He says, "I thought you would know him. That's why we're asking. It's just, what's his crack?" And I says that. And he says, "Oh, that's okay. But we just knew if somebody would know anybody in amateur league, it would be you." So it's just, but that's about networking. You know what I mean? That's the signs of, as you'll find as a manager, see if it's all about knowing someone that knows someone.
Yeah, it does help as well, especially when you're looking friendlies. Lee Forsyth wanted to ask about the end of season awards speech at Abbey Villa.
Well, that was all to do with, and obviously Lee was at our Rangers time, so basically during the speech, I'd obviously heard that Lee was trying to poach the players at Abbey Villa and things like that there at that time, and obviously we were just obviously doing that, and Lee had already been on them, and the boys were chirping on, Lee's this and Lee's on to me here, and I went, still on, and then basically at the end of the speech, I just basically says, F Lee for safe and F our Rangers, because these boys are staying. That's basically what I said, and that's how. And I got back to Lee, but at the end of the day, that's what I meant. So, but here, that's part of football. That's why Lee's successful too. He knew how to get a player as well.
Exactly. Michael Moore wanted to ask you, do you still get child maintenance for Jordan Dalzell?
Well, we'll talk to players who'll sign for me whenever I get. Jordan Dalzell's one of them, but Jordan's played for me 3-4 times, and let's say he can be hard to manage at times, but I think it's a bit of respect that they have both for them fall out with each other. He can huff and we can both huff, sort of way.
TJ, I really want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to do the interview, because I know you've a lot going on. You're a busy man, and I really hope that next season we can get football back properly, and we can see how we get on this Rosebowl team. Yeah, well, let's hope so, and hopefully we can all stay safe and get football back in 2021, 22, whatever the year it is. That's it for today's interview. The podcast is sponsored by Learners Ross Driving School and Drumbo Park Racecourse, and I hope to be back with another interview next week. Thanks very much for listening or watching. Cheers.